Greetings. Hello. This is Karen with Naturally with Karen. And today we're going to talk a little bit about stabilizing your energy. I've been out really trying to getting some sunshine outside. And every single one of us has something going on in our lives that can be very potentially destabilizing when it comes to our energy. We want to do our absolute very best to keep ourselves stable, to keep our ship from being too rocky. And 35 years of helping people through guidance work, which today we call coaching. We might call it consulting. We might say that's my health coach, my life coach. What the deal is people have become guides for other people through their own journey, their own experience. And that's something that I provide for people, is a sort of guidance that is mind, body, and spirit. So stabilizing your energy has everything to do with how successful you're going to become as you detoxify and you heal, or what I like to call regeneration of your energy. So once you have been diagnosed, or once you have symptoms that you are experiencing, it could be something that is typically a first symptom like constipation. It could be hair thinning and hair loss. It could be eczema on your body. It could be trouble sleeping. It could be restless legs. It could be acid reflux. It could be that you got a diagnosis of ovarian cancer. It could be that you've got a diagnosis of diabetes. All of those they began with deficits with your trace elements and some of the habits that you have, including the habits of your mothers and your mothers before those mothers. A long line of ancestral mothers contributed to, in their womb, contributed to who you've become and what you've become in this particular vehicle. You know this as a body, but also think about it as the vehicle. Your spirit is housed inside of this vehicle. So I want to thank you, the many people that have recently subscribed to Naturally with Karen. I don't come on this channel as a perfect person. I'm almost 60 years old. If you're on my Facebook page, Naturally with Karen, everything's the same name, and you don't know that much about me, bless up, Kim. I'm a shaman, which is a person who works with the intuitive, deeper levels of intuitive wisdom alongside guidance. A medicine woman is a person that has worked with people to help them to heal. I live with a pack of 3 dogs, and I have another dog with me for about another week that I'm rehabilitating. And I'm also helping a person through heroin addiction who's been relapsing several times. So don't ever expect me to look perfect. I cry, I get stressed. But how I'm able to ride through it without going completely gray, and how I'm able to keep myself sleeping and functioning is something you're going to also need to prepare for if we're going to go any further in this opioid crisis and cost of living crisis and the antidepressant and all of these other drugs that are being handed out like candy. So I'm going to put my reading glasses on because I prepared an outline actually 2 days ago, and I wanted to get to this, and I was helping a few people move yesterday, which took a little longer than I planned. So let's jump right in. Okay. You're in a ship, and the ship, you think of them as relationships, partnerships, businesses, things like that, right? But it's as if we're all in a ship together, and our collective energy, or what is commonly referred to as your collective consciousness, is affecting everything from the weather to your health and your neighbor's health, because you all live on the same block. Okay. So when it comes to stabilization and energy, because you are energy, if your energy is unstable and you live with someone else, they're going to affect your energy because you are living waters inside of yourself, right? You are blood and lymph, and you have a circulatory system, and it's funded largely by your lungs. So if your lungs are full of mucus and congestion, you're not going to be able to expand fully through the lungs. You're not going to be able to fully oxygenate the brain. And one of the things that I look for when I'm working one-on-one in a session with someone, or sometimes I'm working with a group, since I've done this for so many years, I've worked with a lot of different scenarios, is I'm looking to even see on the level of looking at a person's eyes, even if there's some brain anemia, meaning that there's a lack of oxygen getting to the brain. And I have a special way that I do that. I'll ask the person to come up close to, their webcam and look at their eye or look at their earlobe or look at their tongue and have them stick their tongue out. And it feels kind of weird when you first do it, but it's really effective because now once we get past our sessions, you're able to no longer depend on me, but you're able to come into being your own physician. Now, about 3 or 4 days ago, I started dreadlocking my hair again. So I'm just going to pull it back. I pinked up a little more, reddened up a little more than I usually do getting out into the sun yesterday because we've had very little sun this summer. It's been a very unusual summer so far. We still have July and August to go. And I was under some stress. And if you're doing that and you're not eating really 100% plant-based, your skin isn't going to have as much rich keratin in it. You're going to pink up a little more than usual. Okay. So if you're living with someone and they've got unstable energy, or you're working every single day, 8, 9, 10 hours a day next to someone with very unstable energy, you've probably heard people share stories about, thank you, Kim, about how their periods, which I call a moon cycle for many decades now, instead of a period, which is the end of a sentence when we speak about word sound, their periods will start to come at the same time. They'll start to all kind of pull because we're living waters. And this is one of the first ways I started to figure this out is I would be in an office setting with other women as first a girl Friday and then a legal secretary. And the 2-3 years I worked through college, I went in and I worked as a family specialist paralegal and became a senior paralegal. And in that office, being in there 8 hours a day, we would start to pull towards one another because we're living bodies of water encased in a skin bag, right? So it's the easiest way to break it down. So you can't help but absorb. That's why I like to use the words absorb and influence the living waters with one another. So if one person's got really turbulent energy and they are living on donuts and coffee every single morning, chances are they're not going to feel as good as a person that made, a cup of chai tea, or the person that, got up and started their day with water and vitamin C or some form of magnesium and probiotic, and they really took care of themselves on a different level. So our relationships when it comes to stagnant energy and stabilizing are very, very important. So we're going to see what? More reckless driving, more getting speeding tickets with unstable energy, more arguments, more road rage, more violence, more spending, more excessive spending, more impulsive spending, more overeating because we're just going to fill up the gut and kind of go into food coma. And I know because I did it for years. Okay. We're going to have more chemical use. Even though cannabis is great and it's a medicine, we're going to have a lot more escapism, a lot more just needing to smoke and vape all the time instead of, be fully present and authentic. We're going to be modeling this with our children. So then they're going to see that this is how an adult behaves. And since I have experience with that, I'm here to tell you that please don't judge yourself. I'm speaking of a lot of this from experience. And I'm bringing it to you as an elder because if I can do that as an elder and bring you this from experience, I can save you from some of the grief. Your plans may not go through. Your job may not stay as connected as you wanted it to because your energy is unstable. Okay. So this is kind of part of the game, is to keep people really distracted and their energy very unstable. When I say part of the game, what I mean by that is that if everyone was super high functioning, we would be focusing right now on having food forests everywhere so that the children would, again, just pick an orange or an apricot, a plum off of the tree. Oh my gosh, I can only imagine. If you also would like to get some really great insights, I really encourage you to subscribe to Pure Luminosity. She's my alpha sis. Her name is Kim, and she's got some really phenomenal insights as well. So you can go to a family gathering like I did, and now it's to the point where family is very uncomfortable because you don't eat, think, drink, sleep. Um, your way of life is completely different, and it can be very destabilizing because you want to connect and love with each other, and give love to each other and to and from each other. But my goodness, it's very destabilizing. Okay. So what happens is we end up with unstable energy saying, well, we can play the game our way. We can have it our way. And the game has set up things like Burger King, have it your way. You can pull into our drive through, and its marketing is geared towards you being able to spend your 2 or 3 or 5 or $12 on a bag full of yummy stuff because it's a food drug, it's an excitotoxin, and it's going to help you while you feel so unstable temporarily to distract you from how fearful, how unstable, how crazy and scared and sad and in grief you may feel. So you can have it your way. That's the entire marketing scheme. And I've watched this for many decades. Okay. So what this is, it's increasing our thinking into very much being like a baby, like being a toddler, like being entitled. Okay. Now, a lot of what I'm doing in a session with a client one on one together like this is gathering. So I'm listening to the words that you choose. I'm asking you about your tongue and about what's going on, and you're telling me the story. And I'm noting in the notebook, like I have down below here, what's really going on. Okay. Not as a psychoanalyst, not giving psychological or medical advice, but as a guide, something totally different than either one of those things. Okay. So now your words, if you think of the word itself, word is sword without an S on it. So your words can be very cutting. They can be very dangerous. They can be very destructive. So I'm listening to the words that you choose to use because it's another form of self armor. It's another form of so for example, someone recently who was talking about their situation and how horrible it was and how anxious they were using words like paralyzed, crippled, oh my god, I almost had a heart attack, I just want to make it go away, just make it disappear, these kinds of things, right? As I'm listening to the word choices that they're using, it's giving me an idea of what they're thinking. So we've all been in that situation before where we're like, God, the pressure is just too much. I mean, it's like way too much for me to deal with. And these word choices that people use really key me into what's going on with your stabilization, how unstable. So, what are we going to do about that? We're going to find some tools out of my medicine bag. We're going to find amino acids that are brain food because, with my experience for all these decades, healing me, healing loved ones, healing therapeutic foster children through Northwoods, healing clients in my licensed and insured business of 16, going on 17 years in Cloquet, Minnesota, through the city of Cloquet in absolute proper upstanding, insured $2 million, the whole bit. I've learned a great deal listening to the stories and helping find solutions that really work. Brain food instead of drugs, if we can do it. If you go to your doctor and they've given you something, then that's what you do. If you're not quite at that level yet and you'd really like to help yourself, then you can come on and I will help you through guidance. Okay? All right. So, what do I want to say here? There's a really big difference between a shrink, a psychologist, and a person who's a guide, a shaman, or a medicine woman, or a coach. Okay. Part of the gathering, I wanted to just kind of bridge this for a moment, is I always do a 4-part process. It's called my order of operations. And in my order of operations, which is very specific to the work that I do, that I personally have developed, it wasn't something that I took out of coursework. It was through many, many, many courses and many, many books and hundreds, thousands of experiences, including a huge box on the floor over there. Back when I used to only do paper, now I do paperless wellness forums at naturallywithkaren.com. I start with gathering. So I start by looking at your wellness form and asking you what's going on. Please, take a few moments and tell me your story because I really want to hear it. And in hearing it, it's going to give me a lot of insights about you. So that's the gathering. Okay. When we have sessions, I'm able to hear through these repeated short stories. You might say, you know what, this week this happened. And I might say, well, you know what, if it was my session, at 4 o'clock this morning, I woke up to a loud crashing boom. And there was just amazing thunder and lightning. And, all these things were going on and just crashing with lots of water. And I realized, that there's a lot of energy moving in and out of my house of spirit, my physical house, my monetary house, my house. Like I'm in my 8th moon, which is something I will help you to determine. What house are you in? What moon are you in? No airy fairy stuff. I've got a real grounded professional side to me, which is different than a lot of people that are guides who are just really kind of too fluffy or too crunchy for a lot of people. So I got both sides there that I bring that on. I know they get I know they get upset and it's really awful. It's really awful because they get very, very ticked off. Okay. So the first thing you want to do is start with the wellness forum at naturallywithkaren.com. You click on consults. There's a wellness forum. Even if you're not even sure you want to get started right now, just let me put it there and we'll think about, when I'm going to start with consultations. Feel free to do that. I'll look it over. I'll get back to you and say I've received it. I'd love to work with you and here's what's going on. You can ask me some questions. Obviously, I can't sit and answer questions 8 or 10 hours a day. I did that and it almost took me over the edge. So I've learned a great deal in what I do. Anyway, so now stabilizing is really to minimize your stress. It's really to minimize the inflammation that's going on in your body, your mind, and your spirit. Okay. Maybe you're saying, I don't get out and walk. I don't get to the gym. I don't take the supplements I'm supposed to. I'm just not doing what I need to do. I'm procrastinating all the time. I really need help, right? And for example, one thing I'm doing for stabilizing is I'm holding a crystal that my son got me as a young child that, goes on a necklace that I used to wear quite often. And I remember him walking up and saying, Mom, I need $10. I just got to get you like the best Christmas gift ever when we were at the Festival of Trees. So I'm holding on to this. And this is a form of stabilization. Not that you have to hold on to a crystal, but sometimes connecting with another human being who's got the ability to help you is stabilizing. Okay. Just like Kim and I, we connect. Pure Luminosity and I, we connect. And she knows that, through going through family experiences with alcoholism and people, having experiences where they became unwell through some of their food choices, through doctor choices, life choices, that much as I have as well, that sometimes it's not so easy. And it's really nice to have a hand to hold on to because the stress can get really high the way that things are today. Okay. So you could reasonably argue that that we're mostly unstable. But what's really going on is that, I'm sorry, I'm getting a phone call in right now. So what we do, oh, beautiful. Okay, so I'm getting a little bit unstable because I'm holding this crystal and I was, sending a loving message to my son and he's calling in right as I'm doing this. So I got a little distracted for a moment. So in terms of stabilization, the modern response to unstable energy, right? If you see a dog, if you've ever looked at, Cesar Millan, he talks about dogs with unstable energy, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. Group homes, assisted living, nursing homes, hospice, hospitals, psych wards, behavioral correctional centers like AJC up here, Thistledew, correctional camps, more and more and more HRAs, Section 8 housing. What we are doing is warehousing people because we don't know what to do with their unstable energy. This is the big, big point that I want to make out of this live stream is if we keep compensating, if we keep saying, well, we'll put you over here. If you didn't do this, if you can't do that, right? We're putting people, as I saw so clearly yesterday going to an HRA apartment complex, we're putting them at this one and that one. In Duluth, it's Gateway and Tri-Towers and Endion. And we're finding more and more places and smaller little apartment cubby holes to put people and stack them in these high rises. And pretty soon, just like the Japanese showed us 30 years ago, I remember bringing this up 35 years ago about the Japanese and their concept of quality circles. But then they came up with these little sleeping capsules because people were running out of space. Not only space, but they're running out of the ability to have stable energy, okay? And if we can't have stable energy and we've got what we've done to people, injecting them with too many chemicals, giving them too many drugs, moms that are now bipolar, schizophrenic, mood disordered, personality disordered, there is an endless glut of names for them. We're never going to deal with the root cause. We're going to keep stuffing people younger and younger, as I saw with my own eyes yesterday, 18, 19, 20, going into places where they're like, hey, I'll just never have to work again. And these people are, getting high and doing what they do to self-medicate and cope. They're doing their best to cope, not because they're bad people, not because they're people without resources. Of course, they're people without resources because they didn't have the resources when they came in, when we knew full well that they could have had the resources. And by that, I mean, moms could have been really flush with trace elements. They could have had what they needed to develop their babies properly so that moms weren't bipolar and babies weren't eventually put into early fours and preschools and what do they call them? Head Start programs and kindergartens, and then funneled into special education and learning disabilities, and now contained for many years, actually, contained classrooms like you see at Merritt Creek Academy up on the Northwoods campus. Okay, I have worked personally with two psychiatrists. I'm sure you know them. They're both still in practice, to my knowledge, Dr. Svingen and Dr. Bauer. And I've had personal meetings, individual meetings with both of those psychiatrists about drugging children. So those are actual experiences that I've had. I'm actually going through an opioid crisis with a family member, which is why I probably could look a little better than I do right now. But I'm working on myself and I'm keeping myself afloat and I'm doing the best that I can because this thing hijacks the limbic system, which includes your amygdala. Okay. So unstable energy, opioid crisis, too many injections with toxic elements, too many mamas that were not fully healthy when we had, not because of their fault, but because they didn't know, they weren't fully mineralized, and the children that were born to all of us, every single one of us, myself included, were not given a full chance potential, not to mention given their full blood volume and their stem cells, okay? So what else about stabilization? Stabilization takes a bit of time. So sometimes it's not just one session one-on-one with me. It's like we're going to use some amino acids. We're going to talk about 2 yoga poses. I'm a certified yoga teacher, African yoga teacher, which is the basic foundation of yoga comes from Africa. You can see it on the hieroglyphs. You can see the plow poses and all the different poses. I did Indian yoga just as a participant for probably 20, 25 years before I decided to pay my $2,500 and get my schooling. Let me get a sip here. Kim said she took her crystals to the gathering yesterday, and I was holding on to this because this is from the earth. Although the blue color is not natural, it was tinted, and my son thought it was special, so it's going to be special for me. And as I was holding it and conducting, he's messaging and calling me. So maybe it's working, huh? Maybe not. Kim at Pure Luminosity took hers to the family gathering. And if you're kind of that person in the family that maybe you would call black sheep or the white sheep or the gray sheep or the pink sheep or whatever it is, and you're the one that does things a little bit differently, maybe you might want to stick a little favorite stone or a touchstone. Sometimes I pick up a touchstone outside and put it in my pocket. I put it back somewhere else. It is kind of like a better place. Parenting is a form of stabilization. And in my notes here from 2 days ago, parenting, you are stabilizing an infant that has come from your blood and bones and mineral, and you are stabilizing them because in the 0 to 3 range, they're entirely a sensory organ, especially from 0 to 12 months. They're entirely a sensory organ. There's just thousands of sensors on your integumentary system. Your integumentary system is your skin. And so it's just picking up all this information. And for that reason, Rudolf Steiner suggested that the infant to the toddler always wore a cap, right? Not a synthetic made cap, but like one made out of hand-spun cotton. Ethiopian hand-spun cotton ideally is what I had for my son, or crocheted from, hemp or linens, or, something of really natural fabric on the infant, because of the fontanelles and because of the fact that they're taking so much in as a sensory organ, that you didn't want all that energy destabilizing your precious, beautiful infant. So as I move around, sometimes I'll say this to someone and it might be in the middle of summer. And again, remember, you could have even had a real thin silken little piece that you put on baby too. But they'll say, well, no, it's hot. They've got them out there in the stroller, pushing them around. And I'm like, really better to carry next to the heart. And, much better to not go put baby in the crib, but to do some co-sleeping. Co-sleeping that's why we don't really feel super sexual after we have babies, is we're restabilizing our energy after we have baby. And we go into mothering mode, which is very different than being someone who's looking into procreational mode, okay? So parenting is also stabilized. You're stabilizing your baby, your child, okay? The work of stabilization is actually priceless. It's only done by elders, meaning people that have raised their children, people that have learned from a long journey of learning and have stayed the course. Remember in the beginning, we talked about the ships, the relationships, the partnerships, etc. There's absolutely no price for it, because when you're in a situation where you're really, really unstable, there's nothing more valuable than even having someone that you can connect with, like I do with Sis Kim, and saying, man, I'm feeling really numb right now. I'm feeling like, what else can I possibly do about this? So that's really amazing. It's extremely valuable. This is precisely why, if you watch many of my other videos on Naturally with Karen, I talk about pack mentality, not just the dog pack, but I'm speaking about humans in a pack, right? Being able to co-relate with each other, being able to trust each other at a time when just about everyone around you is staring at the phone all the time. They're looking down like this and everyone's looking very intently doing their work. We need to build trust. We need to build strength. We need to build cohesiveness. And we need to do that eventually face to face in real time, not just through a video screen. But for right now, I'm going to encourage you to subscribe, to share my videos, to watch them, and to learn and to grow with me, because it really would have helped me out as a younger person. And I'm hoping that that's what I'm doing for you. I'm hoping that you drop me some comments and you say, hey, I liked this, or, you didn't like this. Tell me what you didn't like, right? Or I'm going to join you on the dreadlock journey. And how it started was I got the Nutribiotic soap and I washed my hair just so it could kind of rough it up a little bit and take all the coatings of shampoos and conditioners off. And then I just pull it back. And if I'm home, I can leave it out. But eventually it'll start to connect, okay? So let's go really quick. Not only distractions are destabilizing, but also division. So, I don't know what comes to mind for you right now about division, but what came to mind for me as I was making these notes are the isms, right? And I want to send a really big shout out to a mentor, elder, teacher of mine, a Latina woman who is someone who has been absolutely, like we talked about, priceless, invaluable in my life. So a huge, huge shout out of love and an honorable bow to Lillian Roybal Rose. Lillian Roybal Rose was one of the most intelligent people I have ever met. In 1997 at Cabrillo College in Soquel, California, I took her 3-day workshop, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was called Cross Cultural Communication, 1997. Okay, so that's over 20 years ago. Cross cultural communication. So she showed us what it feels like to live under the pain of isms. How every single person around you, you might think, well, she's got it made. She makes a lot of money. She knows all the medicine. She's got all the family. I don't. She's got a perfect baby. I can't. I'm infertile. He's got. We all have pain. You have pain. I have pain. I'm telling you my pain. I'm an open book. I tell you, I've got a family member with addiction. I've had financial problems. I had test after test after test. I've taken people under my wing only for them to leave and revert back. I've taken and healed people with lupus, people with kidney disease, people with all sorts of things, and they go back on the diet. I can't live in the land of destabilized energy. I have to eventually disconnect and say, if eating the chicken helped you, that's great. If it made you sicker and now you're getting chemotherapy, or now you're doing this, or now you're doing that, maybe that's not so great. Maybe I really believe in what I do because I've seen the fruit. I've seen how it bears fruit for a very long time. I've seen what it's done for me. Yeah, I'm going to still trim up my arms. I'm almost 60. Okay. I'm going to trim up my arms. Yes, I don't shave my underarms. I let them grow. Yes, my tongue isn't perfect right now. Yes, my hair is dreadlocking. Yes, I'm pinker than I want to be, but I'm healthy. I'm energetic. I have crystal clear thinking, and I'm able to study and read and keep my life going. And I know that's what a lot of people want. They want the opportunity to do that. The isms that are affecting a great many people, aside from PTSD, military, PTSD Native American, PTSD African American, PTSD obesity, food chemicals, racism, genderism, ageism. I'm feeling it now, being almost 60. Oh, that old lady. I'm like, excuse me? Could we change our word sound up to the elder or the older woman, okay, or eventually the ancient, right? But not the old person, because my mother taught me as a young child that was very disrespectful. So, abilityism. What if you can't amble along and walk along like others are? What if you can't get into the store? What if your agoraphobia has you so, avoidant that you're not able? Oh my gosh, collapsed veins from chemo. Mm, okay. So, classism, right? So now that I've got Blessed Love, which I got on my arm, doing massage in the midst of doing massage therapy around 2010. Okay. Coming from the left side, from my heart, Blessed Love flows down my arms into my clients. So, what about classism? So, if I'm not the paralegal driving the BMW with the briefcase and the suit on and going to court, waving to all the sheriffs, but now I've got Blessed Love and I'm a massage therapist, or I'm a shaman, or I'm a medicine woman. What class does that thrust me into? Do we need classism? Is classism hurting us? Well, I know that it is, not just from my own experiences, but from the fact that I am very, very comfortable moving between what a lot of people would call ghetto, hood, poverty, impoverishment, homeless, houseless, transient populations of people, which are the larger segment of people today, and moving in between those who are the judges, attorneys, boardroom members. I can go into either camp. Okay. So knowing how people are suffering today is very important. We're looking to the levels. Are you able to stay present, stay cohesive, stay coherent, stay confident and competent by being present, authentic, and real? If you're not, then you're going to need some help. Okay. From the 1980s forward, it was in 1981 that I lived with a wolf dog companion. This was a huge black chow chow and timber wolf mix that I can't even remember how I came to have this puppy. And at the time, most of my adult life, after leaving home with $20 in a suitcase at 2 weeks after I turned 18, parents had moved to Minnesota from California to escape the rat race. I had a wolf dog companion. Never put a leash, never put a collar, always jumped in the car, always moved with trust, came to work with me. I had a job at a plating company, managing a plating company, going to college. And the dog just came with me. And when I had to go to school, the wolf dog, right? I lived in Redwood Estates. You should look it up. It's a really, really cool place. It was extremely cool place where I lived in Redwood Estates, which is technically inside of Los Gatos, California, which means in Spanish, the cats. So I lived in Los Gatos, California, between San Jose and Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is the cross. Okay. And so this wolf dog and I learned a great deal. I connected with this wolf dog until the wolf dog was stolen many years into, our companionship from Redwood Estates. It was a very sad day. But stable energy is something I learned with wolf dogs. Now the second time for me with wolf dog and animal companions, especially canines, right? We learn about what stable energy is just by watching them thousands of times, going to dog parks for all these years and beaches where dogs go. In Santa Cruz, we have a place called, SHIT Beach. I don't want to get kicked off here. And they know energy. So they'll come up and sniff it behind because that's where you're emitting energy, right? They'll come up and smell your crotch because you face them. You're usually facing them and they come up and smell your crotch really quickly because everything that you eat and all the chemicals, the biochemicals that you are being emitted through all the different portals in your body. You have little, sleepy eye coming out of your eyes. You have stuff coming out of your ears. You feel it when you take a shower and you're kind of cleaning the mucus out behind your ears, under your arms, your yoni, which you call, your vagina. So humans know and sense, but they move more in a left brain way now. They're much more analytical, and I believe that's by design. This is nugget number 2 in this video is, if you didn't, the first one, number two is that by design, you're becoming much more left brain. And that's because of these hair tests that I'm doing. They're called an HTMA profile 2. I'm seeing people with really high zinc and the copper's way down here. So their emotional ability, their right brain, their estrogen levels are just sinking way down. So it's something we want to look at. Sometimes you're over zinc and sometimes you're over copper. My book goes into detail about how to detoxify and stabilize your energy. So there's a lot of people out there that cannot or will not choose to do consultations and sessions with someone like myself. Then the book is an easy download. You can start reading it within minutes of watching this live stream. You just go to naturallywithkaren.com, click on the shop, which is where things are that you can order. Click on books and you'll see Detox and Heal Your Thyroid. Your thyroid is considered by a lot of people a word I don't like to use, but your master gland. I call it your thermostat. And so doing the detoxification of the body, as I recommend for your thyroid, will stabilize your energy entirely. I guarantee you. Okay. So limited attention spans, distractibility, a lot of fear. I have an acronym that I came up with totally on my own about fear, which is forces everything away from right relations, right? Everything away from right relations. Fear forces everything, forces everything away from right relations. So right relations means that you're doing the right thing at the right time for the right reasons, not left, right, but right meaning, ethically right. Okay. After knowing a lot of this, we as humans, what a shaman knows is that we influence, because of being living waters, we're all these little individual packets of living waters, if you want to see it that way for just a moment, we're influencing the weather, okay? Particularly the Fe male, the female, the heavy iron, estrogen, copper, the female, right? She is where the ribonucleic acid, nugget number 3, it's my own. I got this from me. The rib of man that is spoken about is actually the ribonucleic acid, which comes from the female, which comes from the iron male, the iron male, the strong male. Okay. And even in Rastafari, we talk about iron, we say ion, lion, Zion, or iron, lion, Zion, right? Iron, lion, Zion. So the tidal influences tsunamis, the waves, the weather, the people coming together, like I said, in the workplace, your monthly moon cycle or your period, your energy, how you feel, your emotions, whether they're stuck or they're fluid, have a lot to do with who's in your sphere of influence. Okay. All right. So the physical form itself, if it's not improving, it's usually because, like was the case for myself, there's something going on where we need to stabilize your energy. So if your anxiety is really, really high, then we need to take that anxiety down by some dietary changes, maybe 1 or 2 yoga poses you can do in the morning, nothing too difficult. The first primary goal is to stabilize your energy while we're gathering. So then you can go into detoxification and you can go into healing and regeneration. 4 steps, 4 easy steps. Okay. It gives you your own power back. It gives you the opportunity to experience a completely different life. Okay. So the physical form, if it's not, improving, this is why we have babies that are big-headed. Their head circumference is extremely large. Why we have people with very asymmetrical facial shapes. You can kind of take and draw a line when you see a picture of someone, and one side of the face is very, very different looking than the other. One eye is very, very different looking than the other. One side of the head has very different looking than the other side. Some people have like a cowlick, right? They're very, very, very right-handed, but they can't do anything with their left hand, right? This asymmetry, because you're not right-legged or left-legged, and I know this is nugget number 3 or 4, I can't remember, but you're not left-legged or right-legged, so you're not left-handed or right-handed, okay? But you were being pushed and funneled into being very dominantly right-handed, right hand over your heart for the Pledge of Allegiance, right? Probably should have been the left, but anyway, it is what it is. So we have FASD, which is fetal alcohol spectrum disorder. We have autism. If you take a look at the majority of people, their energy is unstable and their tongue is extremely thick. It's too wide for their mouth, and that has consequences, which is why I'm asking you to get the book Detox and Heal Your Thyroid, which you can click, less than $20. I think it's $19.98 on the website at naturallywithkaren.com. Start reading it right away, and it will show you how to gather. Make your plan. You're going to get yourself like a little notebook like this for $1 at the dollar store. These are composition books that are all lined for $1 at the Dollar Tree, dollar store. You're going to get yourself a pen. This one I got at the co-op. I figured if I'm paying them for my house loan, I can get a pen. So thank you, Members Cooperative. And I'm going to write down as I'm reading the book on my computer, that sounds like something I need to do. that sounds like something I need to do too. So that's your gathering. Now you're going to stabilize yourself. You're going to go, wait a minute. She mentioned if I had anxiety, I'm going to do the 5-HTP. So I'm going to write it on my list here. Tomorrow on Monday morning, I'm going to go to the store and get my 5-HTP so I can stabilize my energy enough and cut my anxiety down a little bit enough to proceed towards detoxification and healing myself. Then my thyroid can start to heal and come down. It won't be quite so swollen. My eyes will start to heal, my skin, and my entire body. Okay? Knobby joints are not natural. Arthritis is not natural. Everything I'm discussing can be helped in the book. Okay? So the ones closest to you, your family, and especially even your children, oftentimes people make different decisions in life, and you can't stop them from making those decisions. You can't force them. You can tell them, like as in the case with my family member who I found lead on their hair test. If I'm going to stabilize that energy, I'm going to need to use a special kind of trace element that I'm very familiar with to help take the lead out of the body. This is what should be being done right now in Flint, Michigan, is every single one of the people that were being damaged by the lead in their water systems should be given through a grant, an HTMA, through Trace Elements. I would love to be the person behind that and do groups or individual sessions, as the case may be, through a grant. It would not be that expensive, and it would help people out so they would know exactly what they were dealing with and they could get their lives back together. Let's buy their supplements, let's buy their coaching, let's buy their HTMA, and let's really help people, okay? So, let's see. So when we're destabilized, we're going to be much more likely to make comments like my friends did back in Santa Cruz when I said, we need to buy land. This is like before I had my son, 24 years, 25, 26, 27, 30 years ago, 35 years ago. In 1985, I was sitting in Philosophy 101 with DJ Serralo at West Valley College in Saratoga, which is in between San Jose and Los Gatos. And I was going to school, taking my general education, 1985, 86. And in that class, he started talking about avoidant, isolating behaviors. He started talking about earth ships, and he started talking about all these different things. And I started realizing as I was listening to Cesar Millan in later years and working and living with canine companions, everything is like my grandmother said, everything is energy. And if they can destabilize, meaning people that profit from unstable energy, they can sell you more pharmaceuticals, they can sell you more products, they can get on the TV and they can sell you a promise for this and a promise for that. You're going to keep buying. And you're going to buy for two reasons. Number one is you get a dopamine hit, right? And dopamine is constructed of copper. So if your zinc is way up here and your copper is way down here, how are you going to make any more dopamine? It's not a matter of you going in and getting an antidepressant so that you can stuff your symptoms down so that you don't feel and think anymore and you just kind of are very automatic in the world. It really is about, let me take the reading glasses off now. It really is about you being able to make your own dopamine, you being able to feel inspired enough to go out and walk. And if you have unstable energy, if you're destabilized, you're going to be saying things like my friends were 30 years ago that were not willing to go to the class I was and get on the plant-based diet and start cleaning out my organs to the level that I did. If I hadn't have done that, I would not be here today, I guarantee you. My last iridology was done in 1992. And that iridology said that I was born with an extremely poor constitution. So thankfully, learning about Rastafari and natural ways and Ital living, I did not drink alcohol. I did not do many of these things. I cut out the vaccinations and I cut out, not doing medications because of my grandmother's teachings, aside from, being brought in with an ambulance or something where it was out of my control. So they made statements like, we need our space. We can't live together. We really know ourselves. We need our space. And what Lillian Roybal Rose, shout out number 2 to Lillian Roybal Rose, absolutely phenomenal Latina woman teaching cross-cultural communication and a whole lot more. I encourage you to look up her website, Lillian Roybal Rose. She's retired now. I've sent her thank yous twice now and just said thank you, thank you, thank you so much, because your elder wisdom is something that I'm going to carry. The same thing with Rianne Eisler, the same thing with my grandmother, the same thing with Merlin Stone, the same thing with Maria Gambutas, and many, many others who came before me. There are many, many, many more that were houseless people, that were dreadlocked and matted up in not a very fancy way, that were out on the streets in the 80s that I would sit down and reason, which means to talk with. But I kept my mouth shut. I didn't say, I've got to go make food or I've got to go do something. I waited till that person was done and I listened and I learned from them. And then I said, what can I do for you? The same thing I say to my clients when they come into a session. You can ask Brenda, Elsie, Carol, Joanne, or anybody else that has come to me for many, many, many years and many generations of their family. How can I make you feel good today? What can I do for you? And that's exactly how I'm going to start in your session. What can we do to make your life better today? You can start by filling out the wellness form at Naturally with Karen under consults, naturallywithkaren.com. Click on consults, click on wellness form. It's right there. If you don't want to fill out a ton of stuff, don't. If you want to give me a ton of stuff, I can read it. I've been reading lots and lots of documents, writing documents. I can handle it. It's not going to overwhelm me. I'd rather have more information about you than not enough. I care. You'll find that I care. You'll also find that stabilizing your energy doesn't have to take years and years and years, but it's not going to be an overnight fix. It's not going to be swallow a pill. It's not going to be perfect. It's going to be messy. It's going to be working through pain. I had an issue with my neck for about a week and a half, and I never, ever, ever, ever have pain. Like I'm just never in pain unless there's some kind of an accident. But it was a pain in the neck on the left side, and I did the mind-body causative so I could think it through and contemplate and do some meditation about it, meaning just be in a quiet space. Meditation isn't me sitting here chanting on a cushion. I've done that years and years ago. But meditation for me could mean that I just go around the block and I don't have a headset on and I just look at the birds and I just think. It's free, it's painless. You're not going to violate any religion or God by going out and just walking and thinking. So I want you to be able to connect with God, whatever that means for you. I want you to be able to be your highest reflection potential of yourself. And I have such a great wide swath of medicine to help you. Stabilizing is my number 2, gathering, stabilization, detoxification, regeneration. Okay. So I hope you've enjoyed today. I did note Kim went to a family gathering yesterday on a personal note. And when we do that, it can be really taxing. Our family members can sometimes not understand what we're doing, that maybe we didn't just go take the 5 or 6 drugs at the doctor, but the doctor and I both felt that, hey, we could go ahead and do these 3 things naturally and take 2 of the drugs or take none of the drugs. I work with people who don't want to go near a doctor, and I work with people that are working with 5 or 6 doctors. So, what you do on your journey and what you come to eventually in your life is all about you. I'm me and you're you, and I'm here to help. And that's what I do. So, like Kim was talking about, just, having a crystal, a couple crystals. If you don't have crystals, you don't have to run out and buy one. You can also go outside and, or go to the lake. I go to Lake Superior and I get those basalt lava stones, which are just the plain, they're all over the place, right? And those are in my towel warmer on the bottom shelf in my treatment room. So when I'm doing body work, I'm actually able to just take them and I cup them in my hands, just like the crystal here, but they're basalt lava stones. And I'll take one that fits the size of my hand because I've got really big hands. And I'm just running that down the person's back in a fluid way to the music. They're nice and warm, and I get them where they're just not too hot, but they're definitely not super cool unless it's summertime and I want to use cool stones because it's really warm and I'm doing an outside massage or something. But otherwise, they just feel like, oh, like you've had all this work where it's just loosened everything up. And so I can feel where I'm kind of pinched a little bit right here. Wish I could, take my back and put it on a table and work it myself. But I did a bunch of shoveling at Duluth Community Garden Space, and I was shoveling and shoveling for probably about an hour and a half. And I was not used to it, shoveling wood chips and compost. And I also had the situation with the heroin addiction. So there's a combination of things there that just kind of gave me a kink. And I'm working it out. So it's nothing too painful. I'm still operating on full steam. So anyway, give thanks, my beautiful sister. Love you too, sister, very, very much. And I've got about 5 live streams backed up. I can't seem to do them on Facebook. It just keeps saying internet error, but the internet's working fine on this one. So anyway, share it up. I got another text this morning from Val indicating that he knows someone that has the ability to contribute towards a center who has cancer. If you have cancer, I got an itch in my back. If you have cancer or an autoimmune or one of these illnesses, you can work with your doctor and you can work with me at the same time because you still need the dietary, nutritional, and you might be open-minded enough to do even an entirely plant-based diet. I'll show you how to do it. If you're like, I don't want to work with anybody, I have a lot of, need to isolate and avoid, which is stemming from anxiety. If you go on naturallywithkaren.com, there is a phenomenal and affordable $125 plant-based, everything you need to know course. Just go to the shop and click on courses. And then there's another little drop-down arrow that click on all the courses. Otherwise, you only see one of them. And on there is a plant-based course. You can also find a lot of my offerings on Facebook at Naturally with Karen. And thank you so much for joining me. I hope that this has been informational. Thank you.